Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet, and ideally, how to keep it as well. I want to think about keeping some of it, perhaps, during the course of this show. Loaded up for discussion today. We've got Bitcoin staying strong around all-time high, around $123,000. We've got Binance announcing Aster listing, sending it above $2, and BNB is up 4% to another all-time high at $1,200, which is up 20% on the week. Huge moves in the BNB ecosystem. We will be reflecting on that in a bit. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs as usual, plus a general discussion on how we think things are moving at the moment. Today, I've got Legendary and Brad in the co-host seats with me today. We're ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice because the market is very risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment at all times. With that out of the way, Legendary, it's Monday. It's the 6th of October. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
I'm Jim, doing quite well. It's good to have you back on the show. How was Singapore?
Feels good to be back. Feels strange to not be on the show. Obviously, we do not take many days off in general, but as part of the general thinking, I probably do need to take some more days every now and again to do some more stuff on the business side. But it felt, I didn't really get the chance to fully reflect. I definitely think a lot happened in the last week. So I think we're going to spend some time reflecting, not just on the headlines today, but a bit of the changing dynamics in the market over the last 7 days. So looking forward to have that conversation. But in general, it feels good to be back. Don't like being off the show. Singapore was excellent, by the way. Singapore was really, really good. Great people, great city. I lost my phone as soon as I arrived in the cab. So it started really, really badly. But they all told me you have a 90% chance if your phone gets into the hands of a Singaporean, it will be back with you. It will be back with you very soon. I left it in the cab as soon as I arrived. And literally within 5 steps of entering the hotel, I was like, oops, it's gone. And then the cab had already gone. So I had to wait a while to get it back, but I did get it back. So therefore, I'm in debt to Singapore and its people. That is my quick take. What do you think about that, Ledge?
It's a good test, actually, to see how, safe a place is. You do the test in Dubai, do the test in Singapore, do it anywhere in Europe, see where you get a phone back, and probably assume that this is a good place to live safety-wise.
Yeah, just leave your prized items around somewhere and just see whether you get it back. I think that's a decent test, perhaps. How was it in the interim? Any quick thoughts here, Ledger, over the last, whether it's the weekend or over the last week when I wasn't on the show? Anything you need to update me on in general?
Quite the intense week. I mean, a lot of things to do, a lot of things are pumping. The NFT strategies are on a crazy run. There's a ton of copy pasta going around. There's strategies buying the strategies, buying the strategies, buying the punks. So we are doing this layer of inception and copy pasta as well. And it feels good. I mean, not the copy pasta, but the activity in the market feels good. It's like so much fun to be back at it and see everything that's happening, that's pumping. The Telegram chat, I don't know if you kept up too much with that. That has been buzzing. We got
impossible
chart analysis in there, tickers being shared, thesis flying left, right, and center. It's good.
Legendary. Hold on. No, the show in our Telegram chat is the Bread Trader Arc. All right, that's what the show is.
That's for you to tell. I'm not gonna take that away from you.
I'm retiring everyone from my research days. I am now officially a trader. This is my trader hat that I have on. I'm a trader bread. I need to adjust. I'm a trader now.
Are you though, Bread, or are you a buyer? You have to press the sell button in order to trade. Buy and sell.
I did sell a few times. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, I'm really good at the buying side for sure. For sure. Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of fun though. And so but as I hear Legendary saying that stuff, I'm like, fuck, man, are we going too fast? Like, is it frothy time? Are we Are we?
Oh, of
is it end
course.
times?
Of course we are.
We'll deal with that when it comes. But I still think there's too many big catalysts on the horizon. And yeah, man, it's fun.
Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to really get into that question for a little bit. But what we'll do first is we'll get into the headlines. We'll get everyone up to speed with all they need to know. And I think that's the direction I want to go to first, because, you know, Legendary says it feels good. Okay, fine. It's like hitting your dopamine receptors. It's like, it's a fun moment of time. Everyone's having fun chat. People are making some moves. Stuff's generally going up. Yeah, okay, that is fun. But I think Bread brings up the other side quite pertinently. Like, when the strategies are buying the strategies of the strategies, then let's reflect on that for a sec. So we're going to get into all of that and more, because we've got the bigger conversation. You know, Bitcoin's at all-time high. That feels pretty good. And then this whole Aster hyperliquid competition, BNB ecosystem just being on fire. So let's get into those bigger conversations too. But before we do that, let's start off the show as usual with the price action to get you up to speed with what you need to know. We've got Bitcoin that is up almost 1% to $123,000, up 10.5% on the week. Pretty big move. ETH is flat at 4.5K, also up 10.5% on the week. XRP is flat at around $3, up 4% on the week. BNB is up 5% today to 1,200, however, up 20% on the week. So crushing the other majors by more than double in the last 7 days. Solana is flat today, $232, but up 10% on the week. And we have our favorite alternative major. Sui is flat to $3.62, up 10% on the week. Hyperliquid is chilling at $48, actually down 1% or 2%. I think there was a very large seller that's just awoken from the Genesis from after they received all their tokens at Genesis and has just started to sell out. And they are up 2% on the week. Getting into the meme coin side of things, we have Doge, which is flat at 25 cents. We've got Pepe flat as well. Pump is down 6% after it kind of did a big move. Still up 14% on the week, but at 6.3 bill FDV.
I'm watching it.
Do you have a live position, Bread, there?
I don't. No, I sold out of that one. That's what I told you, man. I'm getting better at the selling stuff. I'm doing the trailing stop losses and stuff. Being okay with letting the bag go. You missed it last week. I think Legendary talked about it a little bit more of just like just time horizons, like being okay with like letting things go for, you know, a meta, and then recalibrating, sitting back, and then like judging again and entering in again after that.
For sure. Big.
But then you lead them instances where you sell Punkster at $10 million FTV, and you know, I got out of that position because I'm an idiot and I wanted to save 10 grand, which why does that matter? And now I'm out 250 grand or whatever it would be. So you know, there's downsides.
Of course, there are downsides with this. Yeah, we want to talk the strategies as well in a second too. But just wrapping up the meme side, Pengu's down 6%, up 10% on the week though. Still, SPX is up 1%, up 60% on the week to $1.60. That's a big move. Didn't know SPX had moved that far. I don't feel like it's had that much attention. Fartcoin's down 5%, up 12% on the week at 67 cents. Feel like that ship has sailed, really, right? If we're being honest, I don't know if anyone would really disagree with me there. Mog's down 3%. Rect
I
is
kind
down
of feel
2%.
that way with memes broadly. Do you guys have any interest in memes as a category?
I think it's the exact same thing I said in the summer, which I said, enjoy the moment that you have. Any meme that's hot now, anything that has attention now, enjoy it right now, because from September onwards, everything is going to come to market and you're going to have to compete with every single thing. Just because you're a meme coin in an IP category doesn't mean you're not in competition with Aster, like you are, because that capital that could have come to you might feel compelled to go to Aster now. So it's just what I said in August, I think.
I think memes as a category will go down as a byproduct of the perpification of everything. I think a lot of people are now getting familiar with perps and leverage on majors is able to quench the thirst of fast returns, but you can do it against larger, more established and like fundamental, we'll say, coins, or just like, because like most of these things are memes too, right? Like a lot of the shit is just meme. It's the same thing. You're playing social dynamics, you're playing metas, you're playing all this stuff. It's just now, instead of playing like, oh, it's animal tokens and like playing the animal token meta, it's playing the perp dex meta. And then it's a little more interesting and fun because everyone's got their own perp dex that they love these days. And like, oh, it got listed over here. And that means I can get over here and I can 10x leverage it or 50x leverage it or 100x leverage it if you're on like some of these things. Yeah, I think I'd like to see that if volumes on memes are going down now that perps are coming up.
I think the fact that the leverage slider is so generous is helping tremendously with your thesis.
For sure.
Because if you get bored of, you have your thesis on Mantle, if you go in with a 5x long and that's not hitting the dopamine sensors enough, you can make it a 10x, you can make it a 20x long until like the inner degen, the inner gambler, whatever it is satisfied. And if that were a way more conservative market where you couldn't like crank up the leverage slider on Aster to like 1001x, you would still have people who want to do the meme gambling and want to have the 1000x there. But if you can crank up the leverage slider so much that like a 1% movement is basically a 10x with a 1000x multi, then you don't necessarily need the other things. Now, maybe it will go in waves though. That would be my counterpoint. And people will get like tired of like having to have a thesis to long Mantle or whatever. And they just want to gamble on whatever coin that is memetic again. But for the time being, I think exactly what you're saying is playing out.
I think that's right. And I think that's why everyone's going to lose their money. And that's when it stops. Because in general, people are not good traders. And therefore, they're going to lose their money anyway. And now you give them perps and then they're going to lose their money even faster. So I've been thinking about that a lot. It's like, okay, cool. I agree with you, Brett. Everyone's getting comfortable. Oh, it's fun. Hyperliquid. Aster, all of this stuff. It's people have definitely been getting increasingly comfortable with it. Great, that's how everyone's going to lose their money now. As things move faster and faster and faster, that's how people will lose all their money, and that's how it'll end. That's my thinking. But we'll have a bigger conversation about that in a sec. Let's tell you what the headlines will be and the other bits of news from around space to get you caught up. Bitcoin staying strong around all-time high. Ledger will give us a little bit of a general breakdown, thought process across the rest, all of the markets at the moment as Bitcoin is clipping all-time high. Binance announces Aster listing, sending it above $2. That was today. We dipped as low as $1, I think 70-ish, but $1.80 yesterday after it had gone back up above $2. That's 16 billion FTV. And BNB is up 4% to another all-time high at $1,200, up 20% on the week. I know Legendary has thoughts on that. Bread's going to be taking us through the Aster stuff, some bit of a drama around their data reporting as well, which I think is interesting. Ledge, anything that we need to know on the NFT side before we hit the rest of the roundup?
I think the most notable thing on the NFT side is certainly the strategy side, but still to give you an update with what's going on with the majors in terms of prices. Moonbirds have retraced a fair bit. They are down another 3% on the day, back to a 3.2 ETH floor. That was after they had hit 4 ETH on the token announcement. Bored Apes, however, are having a bit of a move up 4%, 8.8 ETH floor there. Similar story and picture for Azukis. They are up even more, up 7.7, up 15% on the day, up 14% on the week at a 1.74 ETH floor. Doodles are looking green as well, up 6% on the day. Crossed that 1 ETH floor again, up 13% on the week. So we do see a bit of a green price action to start this week off on the NFT side of things. After last week, it hasn't been the most impressive for NFTs. But as we said, the NFT strategies are the one that have been doing really, really well. And it is the apes on the day. Let me bring that up as well. I feel like we
started dabbling on Solana strategies too.
Yeah, we did. Apes are the only one who are up on the day, up 70%, Punk's up 2%. But the rest is down now after all of these strategies had a massive, massive week last week.
Interesting.
Yeah, those are all up.
Rapid proliferation of strategies.
Yeah, there's 5 more this week. Yeah, 1 each day for this week. And over the weekend, the group was going after the Solana variants. So there's bands.fun it's an alliance down incubation, and their original product was basically allowing people to create baskets of NFT or not NFT of meme coins, right? So like you would say like, oh, this is a ICM band, and then it would be a band of like 3 or 4 launches from the ICM sub meta, right? And like it would be an index play on that, and whenever you sell that, it buys back the things. It like has a little bit of a flywheel similar to the strategies. And then they pivoted into adopting the NFT strategy model, and since then they have launched Bodogos, Mad Lads, and Claynosaurs was 2 days ago. In the similar fashion. And so like the Mad Lads one became the Punkster style one, where it's like the mother token for the rest. And then there's other ones that are getting spun up routinely to buy and sell the NFTs.
Interesting. Okay. I want to touch base on that and then the broader conversation in a sec. Let me just get people up to speed with everything else that has happened. Tether announced desire to raise $200 million. I didn't really understand this, with Antalpha platform to create a digital asset treasury company for gold. for the gold token, which obviously is represented by real gold that they own in a vault. There's going to be a DAT for that, so maybe sell a little bit because of something as we announce more and more nonsensical, or maybe it's not nonsensical, but certainly interesting. Hong Kong listed China Financial Leasing to raise $11 million for crypto investment platform MetaMask Rewards program to distribute up to $30 million of Linnea tokens in season 1. And then finally, I didn't find a huge amount of like other news today. I think we've got the main stuff pretty much on lockdown. Punk auction strategy launches. The boys were just talking about Punk. What's it called? The Punk strategy. This is Punk auction strategy. The goal is to buy and sell punks, but selling takes place as a Dutch auction in the native token of past. So a bit of experimentation in the kind of punk buying and selling automated strategies here. So that's the roundup to get you up to speed with everything that you need to know. Staying on the strategies though, Brad, you were just kind of indicating how quickly they proliferated last week and how many more they're going to come now. What are we thinking there then? Like, this is for the concern for me. Let me put my concern out there. I want to get your guys' perspective. Obviously, it's been very nice. It's been a great trade for a lot of people. The number's gone up a great deal quite fast. I think it's really cool experimenting with tech. Like I take my hat off to TokenWorks and Rhinotic, the dev behind it. Really, really cool mechanic. The issue is like when you get to this stage, I think, and in general, well, actually, the good thing about it, or the bull case for it, is that it gives people exposure to NFTs who ordinarily maybe do not want to buy the NFT or not really NFT people. They want to access it via a token in that way. The problem, I think, is that there aren't that many people who want to own NFTs anymore. And I think that market has kind of become a bit sluggish. People do own them and they do want to own them, but they don't own them at scale. And my question would be, how many of these people want to, these tokens don't own the underlying, right? You don't actually own the underlying because the whole point is to list it and sell it for higher. So you don't actually have a claim over the tokens unless you tell me otherwise. And the point is not really even to get exposure to it, really, right? Like I get the sense people don't want to own the underlying here. They just wanted the number to go up. So that would be my query, Brad, maybe coming to you first, then curious for Legendary's thoughts.
Yeah, as you were like going through this stuff, I was trying to think of, okay, how can we predict what the second order effects are to position for what's to come, right? Like what happens, where do things go? Like, and even if there's a way, like most of these developments or deployments are like synergistic or copies of the initial contract. And I'm wondering if we're going to find someone that deploys something that is like actually parasitic to the initial deployed contract. I try to think of like, could you deploy a contract that hunts the listings of the other contract in some fashion, that like, because you can anticipate the behavior, right? So you can anticipate what it's going to do. Therefore, people can do things to try to manipulate it. So I am waiting for like a bad strategy that is going to try to go after this strategy, understanding its behavior, and then manipulate it in some fashion. I don't know what that is, but like I feel like that's going to come at some point. Counter strategy or something. Yeah, but I'm trying to think of second order effects. I don't know what that is right now. I think we probably still have another few days, weeks of the meta, but yeah, I don't. It's time to start thinking of the next thing because we're getting to a high level of proliferation.
Yeah,
Okay.
ultimately it's the same mechanism as Laudia, like minus the having to post about it to make money. But it's basically this thing lives off the volume that it generates, as long as people talk about it, to trade it, because the price of punks is not pumping as a result of that, right? So you're just speculating
It's just
that
a new game.
people find this mechanism interesting and will put volume into that. And as long as this goes, it's basically the same mechanism to an extent as Laudia.
Yeah, and like I've seen some criticisms on the timeline, right? The Laudio thing, the criticism there was that the flywheel breaks because you can avoid the pool that doesn't have the fees. So you go, okay, like that's also taking place only with Punkster. Punkster is a free floating token, which means you can go through the pool, which gets the fee, which gets the fees, which buys the NFTs, or you can go to these other pools that are zero fee. Traders probably are going to opt for that. So now the push pull, all the other strategies, by the way, are required to flow through up and through Punkster. They're locked into their specific fee pools and they flow into Punkster. So like there's a basal level of actual like volume that goes there. And it's probably why their market cap is so much lower, because they're mandated to go through a 10% each way pool. Now, some of the bull case for Punkster having free floating token means now you have the ability to get listed on exchanges, right? Because it's a free floating token, exchange buys and sells can actually just go, and that's like a distribution engine for Punkster as a category. And then you still have people that come through and dump into the Punkster pool and generate the volume, get the fees, and do this stuff. So it has a little bit of a push-pull dynamic of like allowing it to proliferate tax-free, but also hoping some volume gets captured into the main pool. But aggregators are never going to push you there. So as aggregators are normalized, that volume is likely going to go down, which kind of kills the flywheel. And then what happens, right? People have to start selling. Well, you can sell into a pool without taxes, so that's not going to generate any new marginal buying for the actual punks. What happens in that world? Like the thing that made me hesitate with this is you had to basically ultimately bet in an uptrending punk floor market. Like it's cool that this thing will always exist and will always be accumulating floors, but again, if you don't keep the fee flywheel going, it doesn't even have the ammo to buy the new floors, and then it just becomes this thing holding a shit ton of punks. It's just a deflationary mechanism for the actual punks. But even then, they're all listed, so it's not even necessarily deflationary because all of them are available for purchase.
It feels a little bit like NFTs in the sense that they're like incredibly reflexive assets, right? Like on the way up, it can look really fun. But actually, I was going to say, but on the way down, then it can get quite frantic. But having said that, as you said, like it's not going anywhere at the moment, because even if you think just before this was created, the NFT, like punks have just been around that price. It's kind of got to a price where it hit a wall, and now it seems to be buying, I don't know, what is it, like high 40s? Is that where the floor is now? And then just listing for like 50-ish something. And it's, yeah, I feel like it's just hit a bit of a wall now. Question for you, Legendary. When you're thinking about these strategy tokens, obviously there's a lot more now than there was at the beginning. At least at the beginning, that kind of fed into the punkster narrative, being the first one, being the one about crypto punks, therefore the one that's, I don't know, the most, to the extent that any of them can be the most OG, it's definitely backing the most premium asset. So that kind of fed the flywheel for that, at least at the beginning. Now that there's going to be, that there are more, and that there's going to be even more moving into next week, how are you thinking about the whole ecosystem?
I mean, I'm still holding half my punkster bag, with all the criticism that I just articulated. I have an 8 bag as well. I have the Hyper strategy, which is not affiliated to TokenWorks because their contracts are not live on Hype EVM. And I kind of would like to see what this week brings in terms of overall market sentiment, and which I think is going to be a good week, and attention on these strategies. And at some point, just take my profits and move on to the next thing, whatever that will be. I like that. It's fun, it's cool, it's obviously nice because I'm up a ton on my Punkster position, but it's not something that I'm gonna keep holding forever. The other thing I quickly wanted to comment on, if we have 2 minutes, is this Tether news which you put in the roundup.
Yes.
I was very interested in this. I was like, why is Tether partnering with someone to buy their own token, basically, to buy their own Tether Gold token? And they could afford buying that themselves for 200 mil. So I was like interested to see what's going on. So they partnered with Ant Alpha to do that. Ant Alpha, Nasdaq listed company in the digital asset space. They do a lot of lending. And Tether is also quite a 8 point something % stake in that company. And that company, again, is associated with Bitmain, who's the largest producer of ASICs, of Bitcoin mining hardware in the world. And thus is very interesting because their affiliation with Ant Alpha is that all the lending that they do against their BTC, which they're mining, they primarily do that through Ant Alpha. So it's probably more of this ecosystem play that is interesting to Tether and why they acquired a part in that company, because they want to have exposure to that BTC lending business arm against Bitmain, against that largest producer of BTC miners in the world. And they also want to probably get gold into this as an asset to borrow against and financialize that a bit more. So it seems a bit weird at a first glance, but it's probably a strategically speaking interesting partnership that we are seeing unfolding here.
I like it. Is there any way where we can borrow against our gold at the moment, Ledge, on chain?
There probably is.
It's strange though, isn't it? Like all of the places that have Tether Gold, it shouldn't be that hard to, people create all kinds of assets all the time to allow people to borrow against it. But I'm actually not aware of one where you can borrow against your gold yet. So I think that would be pretty cool coming at some point. Must be coming soon. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up as well. Okay, before we get into the headlines, then maybe let's do it like this. Let's get into the first headline. Bitcoin at or around all-time high, and let's talk. You're going to give us a roundup across the markets, and then we'll come back with some thoughts about the general markets, and you can share yours too. Let's do it like that. I'll turn off that noise for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, BTC did hit all-time high, went as high as 125K, has been pretty stable ever since. It's actually pumping as we're speaking, just crossed 124K again. It's 124.3K. But the rest of the market is also looking pretty good. That holds true talking about gold, especially for gold, which is now closer than ever to cross the 4K mark. It's up another 1.3%, which is a ridiculous amount again to be up on the day for gold, sitting at $3,940 per ounce of gold. That means it is now up 47% over the last year. It is up another 7% over the last month. So we'll probably see gold crossing that 4K mark pretty soon, which is a mark that I'm looking forward to because I have placed a bet on that on one of the prediction markets that gold will go to 4K before it's going to go to 3.1K. Stock market, to check in with that asset class, just to get a view of that, is also looking really good. While the S&P 500 is not sitting an all-time high, it is still up 1% over the last week at 6,715, went as high as 6,750. So it's down 35 points from all-time high. But that is also looking pretty good. The last week, we covered that on the show a couple of times. That's the last stat that I want to add into this mix, are the Bitcoin ETFs. Throughout the week, they did cross, reported on that, more than 2 billion in inflows. And they had a fantastic close on Friday with 985 million, strongest day in the week in net inflows, which made the total week the inflows exceed $3 billion in the Bitcoin ETFs.
Interesting. Okay, so everything is super high. Everything is pretty hot at the moment still. Are you concerned, Legendary, with the direction of travel here Do you think we are overheated? Do you think it's fine? Are you making any adjustments to your portfolio as part of that thinking?
We had a bit of a liquidation event going on just before you left for Singapore. So that did cut out some of the open interest on the market, but I feel like we recovered obviously very aggressively from that. I feel like this Q4 will still have a nice rally. We checked in on the poly markets on that last week to see what people think, where gold's gonna go. We checked in to see if anything changed with the Fed decisions. All of that, all of this environment is still looking pretty bullish. So for the time being, I am not concerned. But however, the thing that I do not want to get caught up in is not taking profits. I said it way earlier this year that I'm looking at the time frame towards the end of the year, maybe start of next year, to take profits. And I feel like the last time we said that, which was to take profits at the start of this year with Trump's inauguration, and then take a step back, and then kind of reposition again in the market after all of this tariff war happened, was the right play to make. So at least I want to lock in profits towards the end of the year, see where this is going. And, if I am wrong, and I hope to be wrong, and the market still continues to rip upwards after that and have a strong 2026, nothing's going to stop me from, getting back into the market and getting back into being risk on. But I do want to be able to take chips off the table towards the end of the year and reassess the entire portfolio. But for the time being, I'm still risk on. I still have this split that I mentioned a couple times in the show, where I'm 45-ish% in stables, 55-ish% risk on. Not going to deploy more because I like that stable proportion. Now, these are profits that I locked in for good that I now use to earn yield. So basically for me, this means being fully allocated, because I'm not going to put this gains back in as well, because I just don't need to do that.
By the way, I think if people hear you say that you're 45% stables, I would bet most people think that that's quite risk off in this space. So I think that's interesting for people to hear that is the proportion. Brad, you wanted to come in?
Just 1 sentence on that. That's the perspective where others are saying, "Oh, I'm going to buy a house." ICO is buying a house.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to buy a house. I just want to, farm yield on my stable proportion and have this to pay my rent. And this is my equivalent of buying a house, essentially.
Yeah, you can do a lot with a lot of stables and live, with the yield. People should really do the maths. I know we've done this recently and had a look at what is possible if you to have a certain amount and be, I don't know, earning 8 to 12% on that, maybe reasonably conservatively in crypto. So yeah, you can do a reasonable amount. I've got some follow-up questions, Ledge, but Brad, you wanted to come in first, I think.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear people say, whenever you hear the words and then you hear their actual portfolio allocation, you draw two separate conclusions. It's you hear people doing risk on stuff, man, I put in a lot of money, I'm doing some crazy shit, and then you learn it's 2% of the portfolio. And you're okay, God, come on, bro. And even hearing the stable stuff, and then I draw it to my own stuff. Yeah, I have, I've said before, I probably have 60% in stocks of my total portfolio allocation, which may as well be stables, right? That's I'm not, Robinhood is not going to run to zero tomorrow. I'm fairly confident in that. Yes, it's not as stable as $1, but I would say it's arguably better than having $1 in the current market. So might as well be farming with it as a stable thing. So yeah, I think it's just good to put that out there occasionally, just so people hearing us talk about stuff can understand what that actually means when it comes to portfolio allocation.
I agree. The only thing I would add to what Legendary said, because I think the sentiment is illuminating, but in general, I would say I'm on the earlier side of things. I have been taking profits. I am taking profits more across a variety of things. I do say that, and I'm conscious that I bought a hypercat last week. So that is kind of not taking profits. But okay, it's okay, if I make a strategic decision to get a very expensive cat, then where I'm not buying the cat and then just sitting with the rest of the portfolio. It's okay, let me sell a bunch of other stuff that I really think is either not moving, or to offset the fact I bought a very expensive cat NFT. So I think I think that's definitely something I've been thinking about. And then a few other things as to like why I'm leaning towards just taking some off. And again, look, as Legendary said, I think we go higher. All the macro conditions suggest that we go higher. Remember, one of my key data points that I like to think in terms of is just like the political cycle now. I like the concept that the market is just a political utility now, and the people in charge just kind of maneuver it as and when they see fit, save for any like catastrophic event that is even outside of their control. Because every now and again there is something like that, right? But it feels like with the midterms next year and everything that they've been indicating, that they do just want to run it hot and make everything go up. They want to try to outgrow inflation. And therefore, in some ways, it makes you think that, you know, okay, we're just going to keep going up. However, I'm a little bit hesitant because everyone is saying the exact same thing. I'm pretty sure people were saying that they want to take profits at the end of the year first, and then they've just, you know, people just delay it and delay it and delay it. Meanwhile, you're having these metas that are getting increasingly shorter. Nothing can last longer than a week at the moment in terms of where people are allocating capital. And the thing that we just kind of mentioned at the top of the show, Brad, where you were suggesting, you know, everything's getting perpified. Okay, well, the thing that everyone's discovered is perps. How long is everyone going to survive doing perps? You think they're going to survive till the middle of 2026 in the market where things only last a week? No, they're going to lose all their money in the next 6 months.
So on that,
a variety of takes for what makes me think, okay, these things are compressing. People are going to lose their money. There's going to, you know. So anyway, what do you think on that?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think on that, I think the thing we have to think about is the proliferation of stuff. Because I guess the pool of capital, if it were to stay today how it is, yes, there's a very limited supply that you can actually have, or like time frame that actually works, right? For sure. But as it was with me, because like that's always been the case with memes as well. Most people lose. They just don't think they're going to lose, and therefore they spend the money on it. The way you get these crazy blow off top events is because you keep getting fresh capital coming and just feeding it, right? And I would say objectively, I think all of us can agree that we are not pulling in anyone that is normal. And I think if these perps platforms become more attainable to the everyday user, like people are like Robinhood's trying to do perps now. Like everyone is trying to proliferate this new vehicle that is like, I would say also objectively is better than like a lot of the options in the old world. So like there's a pool of capital that is untapped currently that would very much like to use these, I think. And that's how this goes longer than 3 months, 6 months, is if it taps into the Wall Street bets of the world.
So I love that idea and that set of thinking. But then that makes me, this is a direction I was going in maybe a week or two ago. And I said, I kind of want to think about this a bit more. Then what's the point in owning crypto as such? Like, I think crypto is becoming a speculation layer. Crypto is becoming a speculation layer where you want to be in crypto so that you can do the speculation that happens in crypto. But you want to own the Robinhood stock then. Like, if this is going to continue, you want to own Robinhood stock. Maybe you want to own Hyperliquid as well, and maybe you want to own Lighter as well, depending on how that does. But I'm decreasingly thinking, it's still like it's something I'm working in my head, like I'm decreasingly thinking that you need to own any or much of crypto itself if you think that in order for this to continue, we need to get new people. Those new people are not going to come in through the crypto doors, they're going to come in by the other doors. Can you want to own those doors then? So I'm just, that's like my direction of travel with that. And as for the majors, just to give a set of on this, I've been thinking over the last week, the DATs are exhausted as far as I can tell still. Like I don't get a sense that there's renewed energy in the ones that have already existed. They keep going down the risk curve, just how we normally go down the risk curve when it was just retail and crypto. Like as the cycle extends, that's what the DATs are doing. And I don't see where the new energy or capital is coming from to continue that specific buying. Maybe Bitcoin kind of sits outside of that potentially, because I think in the last week there were no new buys from Saylor, and yet the price went back up from, I can't remember, like 110 all the way to 123. So maybe Bitcoin can sit outside of that. Yeah, those are my thoughts. Ledge, curious to bring you in here. What are your thoughts on this line of thinking?
I think I wanna touch on what Brad said with particularly Robinhood, which he mentioned earlier in the show, mentioned a couple of times last week as well. And I feel like with this purification, basically the bet becomes that, as Brad said, Wall Street Bets is coming in. People will turn will turn the gambling addiction to trading perps on Robinhood, on Hyperliquid, wherever they will trade them, but most likely on a platform that does not require to use blockchain and bridge around, but is an app that you can download on your phone. And with that being said, I'm starting to think that I want to look more at traditional casinos and see if the MGMs of this world are losing in value. I feel like there's been a lot of complaining in Vegas that gambling is going down. This generation is not gambling, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think that people are obviously, the gambling and sportsbook numbers up massively, specifically in the US over the last couple of years. And if anything, my hypothesis will become that if this purification of trading is successful, that places like Robinhood and other trading venues could basically become the most successful online casinos, so to speak, of our generation. And if that then is the thing, the question is, which ones do I want to bet on? Obviously, I'm betting on chain, on having massive Hyperliquid exposure. But I have a bit of Robinhood as well in my portfolio. But I'm thinking if I don't want to quadruple down on that and significantly increase that, and that then exactly goes into your theory, what crypto do I actually want to own? Maybe I'm happy with the barbell in the long term of owning Bitcoin or maybe owning ETH, and then on the other side having a stake in the casino. But casino right now looks to be Robinhood, could be other players in the future as well, and not really care about everything that is in between. I feel like that's probably the way my portfolio could move over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and then you have a significant portion of stable coins to dip in and out as necessary, especially in this style of cycle, right? Just think you had Aster 1 week, which was a liquid, depending on, could have been anything as high as 10x, depending on when you got in. You had Plasma, which was admittedly a bit of a longer one, but you could have gone in and out of that in 7 to 10 days too. And so these opportunities keep arising every now and again, and there are live ones right now, right? For example, one of the ones where the caps filled up, it took a couple of days, was Machina. I think me and you are in that one. Ledger shared that in the chat, done by Ryan Zora and the Dialectic group. I thought that would be an interesting yield vault that they have created and by established, respected people. So that's going to earn tokens for an ICO. You've got the USDAI one on Plasma, which is the kind of GPU APY you earn in some interesting way. Again, your capital earning you points for the ICO at some point in time soon. So there are all these things where it's like, okay, well, if you just allocate strategically for a period of time, then you get this golden ticket, which is going to be worth more than what you pay for it. And then you just kind of in and out, potentially, depending on how much you like the project, how bullish you are. Maybe you hold it for longer. Maybe you're just in and out entirely. You can decide that on a case-by-case basis. But that feels like the way to attack the market now, rather than say, I love this IP, I'm going to buy the token and have a 3 month. You know how I usually say I like looking in 3 month windows. Like, I don't think you can do a 3 month one now necessarily. I think it's hard to construct that. Any final reflections on this before we pivot into Aster and Binance and Hyperliquid?
Yeah, I very much agree with that. Like, the velocity of capital is increased massively. You gotta be super agile with your stuff, and even because you mentioned, for example, the USDA farming, USDAI farming, which is a perfect example of what you just said. I was doing that. I'm still doing it with a balancer pool on Plasma, which I shared in the Telegram chat. And I've been also doing it with the YT, with the yield token on Pendle. Now, because the cap is closed and people want to have USDAI to be able to farm, It has depegged, but to the upside, so that USDAI was trading at $1.04 on the dollar, which also meant that my YT tokens, which are supposed to go to zero by the end of November or mid-November, whatever the expiry date is, were going up. I'm like, okay, I bought a token that's supposed to go down, supposed to go to zero, earn me points. And you tell me this token went up almost 50%, plus I earned like tens of millions of points for free. Of course, I'm going to sell that. So I feel like that is important to keep in mind. You know, all the thesis and stuff that we're formulating in this kind of market, this can change. Sorry, this can change on the day. Like last week, I would tell you on the show, oh, I just did this YT thing on Pendle for USDI because I think it's a good way to earn points. Then it did something that it shouldn't do, which is go up in price. So of course I'm going to lock in the profit and be back in stable, sell my USDI for $1.04 on the dollar, and now think what I'm going to do next. So I feel like that if you re-listen to this show, you know, you listen to that on the next day, couple days later on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever, like things can and probably will have changed massively.
Yeah, that's why I think the Telegram chat's actually become super helpful. We're just, someone is on top of everything at all points in time. So yes, it's very hard to keep on top of, but then, okay, well, if you want to navigate the market properly, it's going to require some time and effort. Nothing can get entirely spoon-fed. So yeah, interesting reflections there. I think we've attacked that from all the angles possible. We've explored a variety of ways forward, still very much allocated to the market, just, you know, super conscious that some of this stuff is getting very, very hot, I think. Brad, let's pivot into the next headline, which is Binance announcing the Aster listing. Sent above $2. There was a little bit of drama on the data side here for what the numbers Aster's been reporting in terms of volumes and things like that. What do we need to know about Aster? What do we need to know about this Binance listing? And any other thoughts you have in this kind of competition that it's in with Hyperliquid at the moment?
Yeah, the Binance listing is the Binance listing. So they just posted and said, hey, it's going to be listed with a seed tag. So cool, it's listed. It was a catalyst a lot of people were looking forward to. So it came with a pump as expected. But that, like, the main controversy over the weekend was around our dear friends over at DeFi Llama, who are the paragons of data integrity in our space. Like, everyone looks to them for source of truth for a lot of stuff. Now, there's a lot of debates on, you know, what data sources in this industry broadly, right? Like, you can go to any two analytical platforms and none of their data will be like one-to-one because they all have their own indexing solutions. You categorize stuff differently, whether it's rev or revenue or fees or whatever. It's all just slightly askew. So everyone should have awareness of that. Well, Llama's in their investigation of recent Aster volumes, they had seen that they were quite absurd, and which is fine. Like, they were just looking at it, investigating, and say that because they were clearly hitting perps all-time highs volumes, or decentralized perps all-time highs. And in their investigation, saw that there was a 1-to-1 correlation between Aster volumes and Binance volumes, which is unheard of, right? Like, sometimes, sure, there is like some similarities, and if you compared Hyperliquid to Binance perps around a singular asset, like, they can hit the same peaks and troughs, but not one-to-one data. Whereas if you looked at Aster volumes and Binance volumes, because they have both of those available to the Llamas, you saw that it was basically one-to-one. And because of that, the Llamas, or OXN GMIs, the founder, said, okay, we're going to just remove this because it does not seem like you're accurately representing what you're actually generating. And for people who are unfamiliar with how you even obtain this data, right, with blockchains, you usually can go to a third party or to the source, right? That's the kind of the benefit of blockchains. I can hit the chain itself, and which is a singular node that is just getting information from the block producer and say, this is what's actually happening on chain, and you can quantify it. I can do it without trusting a third party service. The way the Llamas today have to get information from Aster is through hitting their API. Their API is just their internal database tracking of their information. And same thing with Binance. That's how you have to do with all centralized exchanges, because they're all dark pools, right? It's all off-chain stuff. You have to hit the internal database and say, what are you doing internally? And a lot of those things can be reported basically however they want, because it's their database. They can do whatever they want in there. So like that's how the data is trained. Anyways, they saw that and they said, we're going to delist Aster perps until we can get more accurate data or more trusted information, because this does not seem to be accurate. We're going to continue to evaluate it. That's what's going on. People started freaking out and saying, oh, you can't trust DeFi Llama. You have to go to decentralized platforms like Dune. And then you go to the Dune dashboard, and the Dune dashboard, which is modular. You could make it say whatever you want. I can write a program on the back of a Dune dashboard that literally just says like hard code this value anywhere I want. Like anyone can do that for anything. And the dashboard that was being referenced was using an API to call back to DeFi Llama as the data source. So it was just another representation of the DeFi Llama information that was going to get delisted the next day. So a lot of much ado about nothing. Llama's found some things of note in Aster volume data that correlated to Binance. They delisted it because of that. People started freaking out and going after the Llamas. Basically, the entire internet came back to defend the Llamas and said that these guys are the goats. Don't touch them. And Dune themselves even got in the throes of things and started saying like, let the data do the talking whenever they were posting like fake data. And a lot of interesting back and forth.
So, I mean, it does bring excellent summary, by the way, Brett. I do think it does bring like an interesting question up, which is what is volume? What is real volume? What are we classifying as?
What are we doing here? Yeah.
Legitimate stuff, right? Because wash trading, airdrop farming, all of this stuff is always included in just the raw number. Arguably,
it's present in all data. Like every platform is being traded a little bit, wash traded, all this shit, right? It's present in all of them.
I would say though the Aster numbers over the last few days are like, I'm pretty sure they're like 15x.
It's absurd.
It was like just so insanely high. So look, we do not know. I guess the ultimate conclusion is we do not know how much volume they are doing.
It's taking place on Aster.
Certainly not.
It's like, again, the thing to note is not that like, oh, these volumes are too high, it's scary, it might be wrong. It's that it was inaccurate or incorrectly. The thought is that it was not representative of Aster's volumes, right? It was
okay because you thought there's some type of connection with the Binance volume itself. That was
correct. The connection to Binance being so tightly coupled showed that like maybe this is actually Binance's information and not Aster's information, and therefore it is not something that we feel comfortable reflecting as an Aster volume thing. It does not make sense as a data platform to represent it that way. So like, we are making the decision to remove it until we can show that they are decoupled and these are two separate entities doing two separate things.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, so that seems to be unresolved at the moment in the sense that Aster seems to.
What do you think about Aster as a play? Are you dabbling at all?
Yeah, that's where we're moving to now. I am holding spot from, I had actually bought yesterday on the dip at around 180. I've also bought higher than this, above 2. So I think I'm up now. I'd also, when it first came out, traded on leverage over and over and over and over again, made money, then traded on leverage, lost the money I made. And so now I'm just like, let's not mess around with this one. Let's just hold spot, I think, for now. Ledge, I'm curious to know, your thoughts on Aster, but also maybe broadening this out, Hyperliquid versus Aster. What's your stance there at the moment?
Yeah, similar to you, I traded Aster on leverage, made money, lost some money, and then I was like, I just want to hold this, and I don't want to trade every single Binance announcement and airdrop mechanism changed. So I transitioned to holding it as a spot bag. In terms of Hyperliquid versus Aster, I feel like the time horizon is different for that. Like with Hyperliquid, I kind of know the things that I'm looking forward to, which is the HIP3 integrations, which is more activity and stuff to come to HyperVM. With Aster, there is also Aster Chain, or there will be Aster Chain, but I don't know what timeline CZ is looking at supporting that entire ecosystem and pushing that. From what we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks, it seems, and it also makes sense. Brett made the point, he can't go back in the same way he did with Binance, so he needs another play other than just holding his BNB tokens and making earning yield of Binance liquidity pool farming. So that close affiliation makes sense, but it hinges massively on one person. Whereas with Hyperliquid, I don't feel that to the same extent. So if anything, my potential holding horizon, I shall say, for Hyperliquid is a longer one than for Aster, but at the moment I'm holding both.
Yeah, look, I think it's quite straightforward. Like CZ is CZ, and therefore, if you are interested in making some money in this industry, you probably need to hold the token that he is going to be pushing a lot at the moment. And I would suggest, I'm suggesting to myself, because this is actually what I'm doing, spot instead of leverage, because it's been wildly volatile. But that's it. There is no other thesis than that. The product is not very good at the moment. How is the chain? I mean, Hyper EVM, even as a chain, has question marks around that. Aster chain, when the product itself is not particularly good, would I mean, who knows how long that would take to get up and running to a level that is acceptable. So the thesis is only, look, it's something which is that is CZ related in a specific environment where BNB is ripping. So Ledge, I know we're coming towards the end of the show now. Final thing, BNB all-time high, past 1,200, up 4% on the day, up 20% on the week, up more than double every other major in the last 7 days. What's the outlook and what's the feeling going on in BNB? Why do you think this is happening? What do we need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke about it on the shows last week quite a lot. That's not only BNB, seen the entire ecosystem, including PancakeSwap, one of the main exchange on BSC, being up 40% over the last 7 days at $3.66 now, basically sitting at a high for this year, still far away from all-time high. All-time high was above $40. But there's been a couple of interesting posts, one of which you had picked out by Eugene from Defiance Capital. Let me get it up on screen, saying that it became quite clear that at least in the next few weeks, Asian crypto ecosystems like BNB and Mantle will flourish. Brett explained his Mantle thesis in a very elaborate way last week, so I'm going to cut that part from the post out. But the point is, Asian retail is flushed with the money after striking gold with Aster and all the Chinese sex tokens making new all-time highs. Western TradFi Insti has plenty of funds to deploy, but not sure about Western retail. Western VC coins not doing too well either. 98% of the top projects are far away from all-time high. Too much VC sell pressure. The masterminds behind Chinese tokens know how to acquire, supply, and send tokens. Case study: BNB, Mantle, Aster, Cake, Form. And at the moment, when CZ will return to Binance in September, when CZ returned to Binance in September, was a really watershed moment. King brought much needed leadership and charisma back to the ecosystem, and I expect this momentum to continue. Some of the points I don't necessarily agree with on that, in terms of like the masterminds behind Chinese tokens, cornering supply and sending tokens, sounds a bit too tinfoil hatty for my own liking. But generally, that we are underestimating what's happening in Asia and Asian buying power is certainly very true. I mean, I said it over and over on this show again. End of the day, Binance by far is the biggest crypto exchange. It's followed by Bybit, does insane volume. CZ's built an insane empire, and most of the time we speak of him, not we on the show, but CT speaks of him. It's like, oh, he's criming this and that. It's Binance crime. It's BNB crime. There's like never a word of like genuine accomplishment for what he has achieved, because we do like to look a bit down on what's coming out of Asia and ignoring these ecosystems at large.
Interesting. What do you think of this, Brad? Investing in the East over the West. Is this even like a proper framework to be thinking about? Should we think about it in this way? What do you think?
I'm not, but I am like, I'm thinking about it in terms of comps. And that was part of, a legendary mention we talked last week about Mantle specifically. I brought it up like a month ago, because like, what the hell is going on with this token? It was running, it hit all-time highs. It didn't stack up against other L2s. I couldn't figure it out. So I actually did the time to look at it. So I think it is worth looking at with these specific tokens, because the MNT token is very similar to now the BNB token. Like structurally, they're very similar, and people were not incorporating the actual exchange component of it. And how hard Bybit had actually leaned into making it part of their token. So I think it is useful as a comp because structurally they're very similar. It is an Eastern exchange. It has a chain. It is integrating this token to be its like main centralized thing. It is known for its derivative volume. Like that's what Bybit is like known for. So I think it is useful to frame it with all of the other things, which I guess would put it into an Eastern bucket. But I would not like chase other Eastern coins because I think they're Eastern or founders, from China or whatever. I don't think that's useful.
Okay, so the main thing here is that these are connected to exchanges, and
the comp is very, very similar because of the structural things, not because it's born out of Asia.
Got it. Okay, I think that's helpful. Maybe final question, Legendary, before we close out. Okay, we've got these like top line, you've got Aster, which is the decentralized perps things, which is connected to the BNB ecosystem and Binance. You've got MNT connected to Bybit. What about going further down then? Like you mentioned, Cake is up as well. The only thing I'm conscious of, which I'm sure a lot of people who've been around here a little bit longer will be thinking, is we always have a BNB season. we always have one.
I mean, we're in one.
You could very much argue it's already, if it, it's been happening. It's not like everyone's missed a colossal move across the board with all of these things. Do you think there's something more meaningful happening here, or is this the season? Then we're going to go and do Tron season. Then there's going to be another season. Final take here before we close out.
I feel like that always has been the growth pattern of BNB historically. You had DeFi summer that led the entire bull market way before we got into the main things on an Ethereum mainnet, and this kind of is the growth pattern of BNB. It just goes up, and then it will have its season. It will explode. You will have things like Giggle, which is now 340% over the week, and do its thing, and then people will forget about it because they move on to other things. But BNB will do well in line with the other majors, and then it will have a season again, and people will be like, "Oh, this thing just crossed $1,000 a token."
So the only thing I would say to that, I agree with you. That's kind of how it tracks, and that's the opportunity in a way. But the thing that makes me think there'll be something more sustained is I can't remember the exact preconditions for what made BNB season each time, but CZ is now out of prison. He's like back in Binance in some capacity. And he seems to be, Hyperliquid seems to have got his energy back. Like this is a worthwhile competitor to do something. I haven't seen him push something like Aster this relentlessly and routinely ever, which means that I think that aspect is going to continue, which means that BNB season can continue longer than it might have, because this is going to be a protracted effort over a longer period of time to keep Aster at the front and center of people's attention. Now, the product is still still lagging its competitors in a long way, but I'm just talking from the perspective of a founder who is trying to push a specific product. I think that will continue, which will have knock-on effect for the rest of the BNB ecosystem. So let's see. I'm holding spot Aster for now, and then we'll consider the other opportunities as they come. But guys, that was a good show. Good show. Good to have the three of us all back together. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, live on X video, YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcasts as well. Thank you to my co-host, Legendary, Bread, and thank you to everyone in the audience. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.